What's up, everyone? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have yet another collection update for you. Again, more stuff that, well, took a little while to get here from Christmas ordering, and just some stuff I've been just finding here lately. Reissues of stuff that I've been missing or just been meaning to pick up. Cool suggestions from friends that work in record stores. And, well, you know, just generally me going into record stores and finding stuff because I'm a compulsive buyer. And if you haven't figured that out by now, welcome to Thralls Metal. This is clearly your first video. So before I get into this, I do want to extend a heartfelt rest in peace to Johnny Zazula. He recently just passed as of, well, today, when I'm recording this. He was a huge force in thrash metal. He got Megaforce started and essentially got Metallica, Anthrax, Overkill, I think even Testament, and a ton of other bands kind of rolling in terms of the underground thrash scene back in the 80s, and he was instrumental to them getting started and the whole rise of the Big Four and all that. My heart goes out to his family, and he will be truly missed for sure within the metal community as a whole. So with that, let's get this started, because I got a lot of stuff to go through once again. Acheron, Satanic Victory EP. This is the first EP I believe they ever released. They did put out a full length or two before this. This came out in 1994. This is reissued last year on Vic Records. This is a blackened death metal act from Tampa. Pretty much kind of in the same vein as Deicide, except maybe a little bit more blackened. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect going into this. I only have one of their albums, The Final Conflict, which was late 2000s, maybe early 2010s, and I thought it was okay. This is kind of less okay, honestly. The production on here, even though this is probably remastered, still sounds muddier than hell. Now, they did have Mike Browning on drums on this one, and he does a killer job, but everything on here sounds really, really muffled. Actually, Mike Browning's drums are louder than everything else. But honestly, everything else is only okay. Like, a lot of this is just very mid-tempo and kind of just droning on some basic riffs. And honestly, you could just kind of call it death metal. Like, sure, the themes are more satanic, but in terms of any sort of like black metal leanings, they're really not on here. I've heard these guys get compared to Deicide a lot. This is more like death and roll Deicide. A lot of it's kind of dull, and it feels just kind of generic and uninspired. Again, I still want to get some of their earlier stuff, but this was just, I don't know, kind of there. I mean, this was, you know, later in the 90s. This is kind of where death metal was starting to peter off a little bit. But this, not very good. But I still want to check out more. I hear Archeron has a lot of cool earlier albums, so I'm definitely going to be looking for them, but this one's just kind of okay-ish, like lower okay-ish. But still, check it out, form my own opinions. That's just what I think. You may love it. Anatomia, Dissecting Humanity. This is the debut album from this Japanese death doom act. Originally came out in 2005. This is the 2020 reissue on Dark Recollections Productions, and this is just flat out disgusting death doom. Now, it's interesting because I picked this up the same day I picked up Transgressor's album, which we did a retro review of, and that's a fucking weird, awesome album. Now, I didn't know that these two bands were actually related. They actually shared some members, and kind of a way, this is kind of the continuation of that band, though that band technically still exists, but then, you know, keeps breaking up. It's all in the retro review. This is very similar to bands like Coffins, or definitely Autopsy. In fact, they cover Autopsy's Stillborn on here and do an awesome job. The bass on here is so damn heavy, but everything about this is heavy. This is like the Japanese equivalent to Disma in terms of heavy death doom. The production is so damn thick on here, and my God, when they slow down to a death doom break, especially in the second track, Tortured Bleeding End, it's just flat out filthy. I love the guitar tone on here because they kind of found this balance between fuzzy and kind of crunchy at the same time. Again, it's thick. It sounds like when you play it, there should be some like black liquid that oozes out of your speakers as you play it. The guitars are tuned so low, I swear they were probably going for that mythical brown note. They may have hit the yellow note because while I was listening to this, I really felt like I had to pee as soon as those guitars kept going. Like, something about that kind of shook the old bladder a bit. I don't know, I might just be getting old. But outside of that, this also has like some creepy atmosphere in here. The screams that are in Only Consumed by Dead are absolutely just blood-curdling and cavernous. This is heavier than Godzilla's fucking footsteps. I have to throw in one Japanese reference in there because it's Godzilla. I love him. The only thing I can knock it on is the weird outtake demo in the end, but that was kind of probably tagged on here for the reissue. It's just weird, noisy soundscapes, and I mean, I get it, it's creepy, but it definitely feels like extra, but holy shit, this is fucking awesome. I definitely need to get more of this band stuff. It is gloriously heavy, fiercely doomy. I fucking loved pretty much every single second of this. If you have not jammed this band, I strongly recommend checking them out. It's fucking heavy, and if you like that, then you will like this. Check it out. Blood, Dysangelium. This is the 7th album from this German death grind act. This came out in 2003. This is the 2021 reissue on Vic Records as well. Apparently we've got a bit of a theme here. I absolutely dug the fuck out of these guys when I saw them play at Maryland Death Fest in 2019, and I've been slowly sort of picking up all their stuff. And this is full-on fucking death grind. There's only a few tracks on here that are over 2 minutes. This is blast beats, guttural vocals, quick, gnarly songs. And this gets off to an interesting start with Bloodline Pulsation, which is an intro, and everything kind of sounds very quiet and muffled, but once you get into the album, holy shit, everything gets loud, especially the vocals. I think the vocals might be a little too out front on this mix. But overall, I mean, short tracks, they hit you hard, they hit you fast. It's pretty much grindcore. There's just the occasional death metal riffing moments on here, but most of the time it's blast beats, D beats, and just kind of punk energy across the board. Lots of cool horror samples on here. You get bits from Hellraiser. They even got It in here, like the original Tim Curry It from the 90s, which actually was pretty fucking fitting on here, and I forgot how creepy his performance was. I gotta revisit that one. Pretty much across the board, this is just straight up grindcore. Again, death grind, I guess, because there are some death metal sections, but most of it is grind, except for the title track, which is the last track, which is the 21st track. That's how you know this is fucking grind as fuck. It's a dreary synth piece that would not feel out of place in a Fulci movie. Really kind of an interesting, moody closer for pretty much the, you know, bullet train of blast beats and guttural roars and fucking tremolo riffs and shit like that. I like this album. I don't think I like it as much as Christbait. I think I like that one a little bit more. It's a little bit older, and I kind of like the production being a little bit more evened out on that. But this is still really good, and honestly, I haven't heard anything bad from this band yet, so strongly recommend checking out Blood. If you love grindcore, well, you'll probably like Blood, so check them out. Brutal Truth, Kill Trend Suicide. This is their 1996 EP. I believe this is their 4th EP overall. I actually already have this because I have the reissued version of Sounds from the Animal Kingdom, which was the first Brutal Truth album I ever got. And because it was the first one I got, I wore it the fuck out. So I had to get a replacement, got the reissue, it came with this. But I kind of wanted to get this on its own, and I just decided to pick this one up. Now, I kind of forgot because it was a fucking dumb 90s thing where you had a hidden track. So the last track, there's a whole bunch of dead fucking space, and then you get the extra track at the end. And the track's okay, but I just kind of hated that whole, like, unnecessary silent space you had to wait through to get to that. But outside of that, I love this EP. This is pretty much them kind of getting even crazier and spazzier after Need to Control. The songs are just kind of nuts. Pass Some Down and Hypocrite Invasion have some killer sludgy fucking riffs on here. Zombie, not to be confused with Cranberry Zombie, has awesome crawling death metal riffs on there. There was like a little bit of death metal on here, but not much. This is pretty much full tilt fucking grind. And I have to say, one of the things that makes this extra gnarly is Danny Lilker's fucking bass down on here. It's just fucking disgusting. But this is Brutal Truth. It's supposed to be fucking disgusting. Pretty much I have no complaints other than the fact that there's that stupid fucking hidden track at the end, but I mean, it's Brutal Truth. I fucking love this band. This is one of the bands that got me into grind, and I'm just super glad I actually found this on like its own. Now, you know, because the reissue didn't bother with that hidden track, I actually had to take the last track, the title track, from that reissue and put it on my phone instead of the one on here because I'm not sifting through that stupid fucking silent horse shit. But outside of that, this is an awesome fucking EP. If you have never heard it, I'd say just jam some Brutal Truth in general because Brutal Truth fucking rules. I definitely miss them because they broke up fucking forever ago. But still, if you have not heard them, definitely check them out. They fucking rule. Death Angel, The Bastard Tracks. This is a live album that came out last year. It even comes with the Blu-ray for the performance. I generally don't pick up live albums, but I kind of wanted to snag this one because this is a band I still have yet to see live, and I did see some of the tracks they put on YouTube, and holy shit, they fucking kill it live. And this live set is really interesting. There's actually 3 tracks on here from Frolic in the Park, which I recently brought up in a video, and some of you agreed, some of you didn't. I get it, you know, it's all subjective, but I thought it was interesting they actually included so many tracks from that, and actually included less tracks from, well, the Ultraviolence, which I was kind of surprised by. The overall sound of this live performance is pretty much fucking spotless. It just sounds fucking great. But there is a downside. This is essentially like a COVID jam, so no crowd shouting back, and I mean, props to them for not funneling in crowd noise and kind of faking it up. I kind of need to hear that to get the full live experience, though this is really cool just to hear them jam out these tracks. It's just, I don't know, it just feels weird. But they fucking nail this set. Mark Osegueda sounds fucking amazing live. That dude has such a killer voice. And I mean, I really don't have many complaints other than just some like aesthetic ones, essentially, just because the live feel. But yeah, this is really solid. I still have yet to watch the Blu-ray, but I did listen to this, and yeah, fucking Death Angel rules. But I think most of us pretty much know that, and if we don't, we need to check out more Death Angel because they've been on a tear here lately in terms of new albums. I can't wait for them to put out an album, which I believe should happen this year. So I have that to look forward to, which is fucking awesome. But for now, this is pretty damn cool. And again, I don't really pick up live albums very often, but this was pretty cool. So yeah, if you have not checked this out, I recommend checking it out and jam some fucking Death Angel. Hulder, Godslastering, Hymns of a Forlorn Peasantry. I had to read that off the bat because I really wasn't sure what that first word meant. Either way, this is the debut full-length from this one-woman, Portland, Oregon-based black metal act. And I've been hearing a ton of hype about this. Like, a lot of people were talking about this, and this actually came out over a year ago. And I was like, you know, I'll check it out later. I was kind of, you know, unsure because looking at the cover, I was like, oh, this is going to be like super folky, and I'm not really big into folky black metal. But I picked it up, and holy shit, this is really fucking good. It is a tad folky, but it isn't overdone. In fact, most of this is very cold, just straight up awesome riffy black metal. And the production on here is fantastic. The guitars have like way more beef to them. There's more like of a deeper sound. It's not like hyper gainy, though I would compare a lot of this to like early Satyricon. Like there's definitely sort of that vibe there. And it does get a little folky on here. Sown and Barren Soil definitely has more of a folky sort of sound to it, but it kind of balances it out well. And I gotta say, her use of synths on here is really good. It's not overdone. It doesn't overtake the song. It complements it very well and adds to the very cold, dreary atmosphere that is all over this. The songwriting here, I think, is absolutely fantastic. I really like the nature atmosphere they throw in here on Dysangelium? I don't know how to say that word. But if you own this album, you know which one I'm talking about. There are some kind of interesting additions here. Lowland Famine. There's, it might be a keyboard effect or something on there, but it sounds like there's like Jamaican steel drums in there. I don't think that's what it is, but that was the only thing I could really kind of connect there. Is like, that's the only thing I think that sounds like. It doesn't sound like anything else. But overall, like, this is a fucking killer album, and go figure, of course, I would get to this one way fucking late. But I'm glad I got it now, and yeah, I dig the shit out of this. Again, this is pretty much the kind of black metal I like. It's, you know, well produced, still sounds raw though. The riffs are great. Riffs are pretty much essential for me, and holy shit, the melodic hooks are fucking awesome, and her vocals are fucking terrifying at times on here. I definitely plan on getting more of Hulder stuff, and I look forward to future releases because, yeah, this pretty much made me a fan. So yeah, if you have not jammed this, and like me, you slept on it for over a year, get up, check it out. It's fucking good. Melvins, Gluey Porch Treatments. This is the 1987 Melvins debut. This is the 1999 reissue on Ipecac Records. And this is some old school sludgy weirdness. Like, this is kind of where sludge metal was born. These guys at the time literally fit in nowhere. They just had a strange sound that was bottom heavy, sludgy, and weird, and Buzzo's fucking vocals were as wild as his strange ass riffs. This is like back when Melvins were just ridiculously heavy, and sometimes kind of hard to get a finger on the pulse of what the hell they were doing. Sometimes you get longer songs, like the opening track, Eye Flies, is like, I believe, over 6 minutes, and then you have a lot of songs in here that are barely over a minute. There's some that aren't even a minute, and then you have like some other longer songs kind of peppered in there, and it's just a kind of a strange listen because some of these songs kind of feel like half ideas, and then again, some of them kind of feel like one is the continuation of the last one. But either way, you're greeted to just sludgy awesomeness. Dale Crover's drum work is fucking fantastic on here. It just kind of feels like a series of like half ideas that were a fuckload of fun to just kind of get to the halfway point. It's like, we can end it there. Why not? Let's just pick up on this one here that has this weird riff. That kind of feels like the whole mentality behind this, and that may have been it. Now, this actually includes a whole bunch of unreleased garage demos of, a lot of these songs, and it's even more raw, it's even more sludgy, and even more less put together, I guess. But again, this is the startings of a band that, pretty much would fit in nowhere and essentially start a whole other subset of metal, and would kind of get thrown in the grunge pack as well, even though they kind of did or didn't belong in there. That's kind of up to debate. But this is a fantastic debut, and I've been trying to go back and pick up all the Melvin stuff that I'm missing, and it's a fair amount because they got like, 25 fucking albums? Hell, I think they put out 2 last year. One new studio album, which we reviewed, Working with God, really good. And then I think the other one was like acoustic versions of older songs. I didn't pick up that one because, it's hard to pick up every single release from these guys. They do all sorts of crazy shit. I love the Melvins, and this is an absolutely awesome debut. And if you've never jammed it, jam some Melvins, because Melvins fucking rule. Birds of Prey, Weight of the Wound. This is the debut full-length from this Richmond, Virginia-based sludge/death metal act that featured current and former members of Baroness, Municipal Waste, Hour of 13, and Alabama Thunder Pussy. And this was intended to be sort of a meeting of sludge metal and death metal. Honestly, though, I get a lot of hardcore. There's a lot of moments on here that just sounds like an extra sludgy version of like Earth Crisis or some shit, which is kind of cool because honestly, that kind of fits in with a lot of the current trends like, Gay Creeper, Creeping Death, Frozen Soul, stuff like that has that sort of hardcore infused death metal. This, just a little bit sludgier, and you get a lot of the Southern fried riffing that kind of comes out of that. But there is some sort of death metal in here. It just, I don't know, it doesn't feel like that's the whole thing. Like, most of this really feels like sludge and hardcore. And I gotta say, these guys have some hilarious song titles. Let's see, we got Butt Fucked with a Shotgun Barrel. Clearly, that is the ballad. Old Lady Rots, but the checks keep coming. And the last track, To Kill a Coworker. You ain't my fucking boss, man. Sounds like someone needs to call HR. These guys were clearly having some fun with this. Now, one of my only issues on here is, again, I kind of expected more death metal, but I was still pleased with what I got. There's some really cool southern sludgy riffs on here. There's good hardcore breakdowns, but the death metal element was missing. But at the same time, one of my main issues were the vocals. The vocals on here really didn't do much for me. It's kind of like just a straightforward uniform growl. Like, it kind of reminded me of like the Breed the Killer sort of vocal performance that Carl threw in, which I'm still not a big fan of on that album. But overall, pretty decent album. I have their other stuff, and it's pretty good too. It's just an interesting side project. Again, it's kind of interesting listening to this now, and it came out in 2006, and you hear a lot of tropes that are in death metal more now than they were in 2006. But I think bands are doing that better now than they were doing it on here. Still, recommend checking it out. Form your own opinions. I think it's okay, but you might think it's even better than that. So check it out. All right, we got a pair from a band that clearly no one has ever heard of. Motorhead. So we have the 1977 debut album, and we have 1916, which did not come out in 1916. This came out in 1991. And definitely 2 very different releases. Now, the first album, this band was still kind of figuring out their sound. Now, they definitely got it right on a lot of these tracks, but there's definitely some ones that were a little bit off, namely Vibrator, which sounds like a 60s pop jam kind of played by, I guess Motorhead. I don't know. It kind of felt weird. But a lot of this is kind of more blues rock oriented. And I really dug that. It has a really cool vibe in it. Like Keep Us on the Road, White Line Fever, Iron Horse, Born to Lose. There's some really killer stuff in here. And again, it's kind of different than a lot of the Motorhead that you would hear much later. Now, this one is actually an era I've been meaning to collect. This is from the Wurzel and Phil Campbell era when they actually had two guitarists. I don't own any of that stuff, and I'm kind of surprised. And again, Motorhead's a huge discography, so yeah, there's still some holes in it, but I'm working on filling those holes. This is a really solid album. I really dig this one. The two guitar attack works really well, especially, God, No Voices in the Sky. The solos that fucking close that out are absolutely killer. I don't know if Wizzo or Wurzel, because they called Phil Campbell Wizzo on this one, is doing the solos. It might be him. I don't know. Killer. And the song Love Me Forever on here, fucking awesome. I think that's probably my favorite track on the entire album. The title track is really interesting. It's very, God, it feels like it belongs on the wall. It really does. Like it could have been like some section of the wall where, you know, Pink was thinking about his dad dying and shit like that. Like it would have fit that whole section, except more gruff and more grim. Well, I don't know, that part was pretty grim. Either way, really interesting closing song and really good. Not that I'm surprised that it's good because it's fucking Motorhead. Like, even at their worst, Motorhead was still pretty damn good. Both of these are pretty much just flat out fun rock and roll albums. I really dig them. I really like this one a lot just because hearing them before, you know, Iron Fist and, you know, all their bigger songs started taking off. It's just kind of cool hearing them search around for their sound. And there's a fair amount of covers on here, especially Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers. I mean, it's only appropriate that one awesome three-piece covers another awesome three-piece. Killer stuff. Really dig these. Definitely looking to patch up holes in the Motorhead discography because eventually we're going to have to rank them because it's fucking Motorhead. But yeah, definitely enjoying this journey so far. So if you have never checked out these two from Motorhead, definitely check them out. I think they're both awesome. All right, we got a couple of compilations that I was given at my local record store. These are the only two compilations, I believe, from Necrotic Records. This one, number one, with that horrible artwork, which I really can't find a lot of good pictures. So if you can actually make out anything in these pictures I'm using as references, I'm sorry, because it's not very good and it's just, I don't know, it's pretty lame. But these were just some underground comps I got that I picked up just because they had some familiar bands on it. Like this one has Putrid Pile and Fuck the Facts. This one has Fistula. I actually know those bands, so I figured, why not? And plus, they're being given to me. They were free. And, well, 2 is better, but it's still not great. Now, 1 is interesting because this one has 2 tracks from pretty much every band on here, except there's maybe one on here that had 1 track and it was a live track and it sounded like it was recorded on a little digital recorder that someone was holding up to the stage like they were interviewing the band. But honestly, the production across the board for most of these bands was pretty rough. Putrid Pile actually sounds pretty decent. I mean, there's a lot of bad drum machines on both of these, but that one actually kind of fits just because, I mean, that's what Putrid Pile is. It's one dude, drum machine, and he fucking riffs out, and, you know, it's kind of cool. There were some fun ones on this one. I think Watch Me Burn, both of their tracks on there are just kind of goofy, spazzy grindcore, and I want to say there's like cartoon samples in them because why not? It was fun, I guess. This one actually has some more badass tracks. I really liked, let's see, Nuclear Desecration and Black Trinity. Both of those were pretty good. I think Nuclear Desecration was like straight up black and thrash, and then Black Trinity was just more black metal. And those were actually pretty good. There's a lot of not great stuff on here, but I don't know, it was just kind of cool hearing these old school samplers. Like this one came out in 2000, and this one came out in 2006. You know, back then, tons of underground bands, and that was how you promoted them, was put them on some comps. And I imagine they probably sold them for more than free back then. I don't know, they might have thrown these out for free, I don't really know. But I guess if you can find them and you don't pay too much, I'd say check them out. But other than that, I'd just say maybe find the track lists on Discogs or something like that and just jam some of the individual ones and see if you like any of the bands. Most of it's not great, but there's some fun ones on here. Either way, check them out. Running Christ, Thy Mighty Contract. This is the debut album from this Greek black metal band. Came out in 1993, and honestly, I remembered hearing stuff from this album on samplers, and I just never pounced on it, and then I saw that they had reissues, and well, I pretty much pounced on it because this is some awesome black metal. Very melodic, very riffy. I definitely would compare some of this stuff to Dissection or Sacramentum. The guitar tone on here, I always thought was strange because it's very clean, it's very crunchy, kind of reminds me a bit of like a heavier version of the guitar tone on Bark at the Moon. That might just be me, but that's the impression that I got in here. But the riffs, God, there are great hooks in them. The vocals are a little bit out front, which generally in black metal, I don't mind hearing them kind of take a backseat a little bit and just kind of be part of the atmosphere. But overall, it's the guitars that really draw me in here. Very hook laden, some really cool Slayer-like harmonies that are in there just to kind of add an extra thrashy punch every now and then. And I have to say the closing track, the Fourth Night of Revelation, which it's night with a K, I think that's important. I don't know. Either way, song is an absolute banger, flat out fucking epic. My only complaints would be there are synths on here. I think they're okay, but they don't necessarily add very much. And the drums can get a little static. It kind of gets hung up on that static blast beat, which that is kind of a thing in black metal, at least back in the early 90s. But overall, minimal complaints. Killer fucking debut from these guys. Absolutely still love this band. I still think they're very creative and very interesting. I think their older stuff kind of speaks to me a little bit more than their newer stuff, but I still check them out every time they put out a new album. So yeah, if you've never jammed this debut, it's flat out fucking awesome. If you love black metal and you like melodic fucking hooks in your black metal, this shit, good stuff. All right, we got another pair here from Sacrilege, not to be confused with the Swedish Sacrilege, which is a melodic death metal band. This is the UK one, which, well, started off as crust punk meets thrash and then kind of moved to doom metal. And I got one of each here. This is their second album, Within the Prophecy, and this is their third album, Turn Back Trilobite. And both are very different. This one is way more thrash metal, but also kind of groove, and I didn't get a lot of crust on that. I assume that might be more on the first album. I don't have that one, but I really dig this. In fact, holy shit, this kind of sounds like Bolt Thrower. Like, this has the Bolt Thrower riffs, the Bolt Thrower grooves, and you'll pretty much hear that Bolt Thrower sort of sound right away on Sight of the Wise. There's a section on there that sounds like it was just plucked right out of, For Victory, I would say. For Victory would be a good one, but this came out first. I'm not saying it was borrowed because I don't think they're the same riff, but the feel is the same, the groove is the same. The production's kind of similar too. Now, this one gets really thrashy and like up-tempo in sections, but for the most part, it really just kind of hangs onto a groove. And longer songs. There's like a big 10-minute song in here, which is just like, I don't know, thrash, groove metal, maybe a little proto-death metal. But when you mix that with the vocals on here are more of a shout. Their front woman, Linda, had just kind of an interesting sort of shouted delivery. She would occasionally, you know, try to do some like more tuneful singing, but this was more shouted, like kind of a thrashy delivery. And then you get to this, which she starts really singing on this, and she does a pretty damn good job. But holy shit, the music took quite a shift. Like, this is straight up doom metal. Like, they started to kind of work in a bit of like Candlemass or St. Vitus or even Trouble. Pretty much all the thrash metal elements are gone from this one completely. Instead, you get long, moody songs that definitely have like sort of Sabbath swagger to them. The riffs slowed down a bit, and honestly, with the guitar tone, it works a lot better because they're both kind of like a muddier, deeper tone. And with this, doing the faster stuff, it kind of becomes really muddy. Here, when they slow it down, it's definitely more distinct and the melodies are easier to pick out. And shit, man, the lead work on here is fucking really good. It's good on here too, but I think slowing it down, there's more room to kind of slow down the solo too, put a little bit more feel behind it. Really, really good stuff. And honestly, this kind of gets better at being more epic. Not that I think this one was really shooting for epic. I think it was just shooting for heavy. And, well, they both achieved their mission. Now, it's interesting that both of these have demos on here, and I think the demos sound better than the album tracks. Like, I just like the mix better. The guitars are even gnarlier, even crunchier. Like, they don't feel so fuzzy and muddy. They feel aggressive. And pretty much everything else sounds really good, too. I just think, I don't know, with those heavier guitars, it really just kind of comes out and punches you in the face a little bit more than what it does in the regular mix. And this one actually throws in some live tracks, and the live tracks sound really fucking good too. I really dug both of these, and I believe it was Marty Worm that actually brought these up in one of his streams. He said the magic words, bolt thrower, and he said it sounded kind of like them, so that was enough for me to actually check them out. And then I went to Night Shift merch, and yeah, I bought them. It was pretty much that easy. I'm really easy to fucking prompt. If you say, this sounds like Bolt Thrower, good chance I will probably go buy it. Case in point, I got both of these. I definitely want to check out their first album, and this is kind of where they left off. They kind of broke up after this, and then they've reformed, but they haven't recorded anything new in terms of like a studio release since. So we'll see if they ever record again, but I do believe they still play shows, and I wouldn't mind checking them out. So yeah, if you have never checked out Sacrilege, these are both very different, but they're still both really good, and I recommend checking them out. All right, we have a split here from Imprecation and Black Blood Invocation. Now, the split is called Diabolical Flames of the Ascended Plague, but what's interesting here is generally splits all seem to come on the same CD, like both bands. This one, you have 2 CDs, one for each band. And I just thought that was very interesting. And they actually have a title for each one. Imprecations is Diabolical Flames. And I'm a big fan of Imprecation. I love their last 2 albums. I still need to get their first album. But straight up just satanic, evil sounding, extra brutal kind of incantation-ish death metal. Flat out awesome. I have to say the first track on theirs, A World Consumed in Fire, it sounds like they have 2 snares, and one is that kind of plunky, almost brutal death snare, and that was kind of the only thing keeping me from really enjoying that. The riffs are fucking awesome, the vocals are fucking great. That snare was just odd, but it didn't really repeat on the rest of the album. In fact, the song Swineful of Maggots, fucking disgusting. Now, I'd already heard Imprecation, I already knew I liked them. Black Blood Invocation, which theirs is called The Ascended Plague, in case you were fuzzy on that, because they kind of combine the names in the split. Yeah, anyway. They are a 2-man Greek blackened death metal act, and holy shit, they're awesome. Honestly, they kind of outdid Imprecation a little bit. It's just dark, very heavy, cavernous sounding blackened death metal. I absolutely love how crunchy the guitars are. They have a very deep tone. They definitely balance out the whole black metal and death metal thing. Like, the riffs are brutal and heavy, but the atmosphere, very dark and sinister. Definitely something you want in black metal. There's some really cool creepy synths on here. I think the production is really good. Honestly, a lot of this reminded me of a more brutal Profanatica. And Profanatica is pretty damn heavy as is. I think this is even more brutal and kind of in that vein. So I definitely need some more Black Blood Invocation, and well, I definitely need a copy of Imprecation's first one. But this is a killer split. I think it's interesting they put this on 2 discs. I just think that's an interesting approach on this. But killer split or 2-disc set, whatever the hell you want to call this, we'll just call it a split. Awesome stuff, and if you love evil, evil fucking death metal, definitely check it out. Cropsy Maniac, Further Than Fear. This is the debut full length from this Kentucky/Oregon-based death grind act. I got this in the Metalhead box, really didn't know much about it, but when I looked it up, I noticed that Roga Johansson actually does guest vocals on here, and I was like, dude, where the fuck does he find the time? That dude is literally in every fucking death metal band. Currently, probably sleeping in a studio right now and just being woken up by a call saying, hey, have you got time? Like, no, but I'll be right over. Probably something like that, but with a Swedish accent. But this is some pretty nasty death grind. It pretty much sounds very similar to early Exhumed or Impaled. Very fast-paced, loads of blast beats, some really good death metal sections. They kind of break up that whole grind side and death metal side pretty damn well. The vocals on here, a little muffled and kind of hard to make out. Like, they kind of do the whole flip-flop vocal thing where you get lows and highs, kind of like Exhumed and Impaled, but the lows are really distorted, and it kind of sounds like he's trying to growl with a sock stuffed in his mouth and he's right up against the microphone. I don't know, I mean, I get the whole, like, you know, adds to the whole, like, gory, grimy kind of monstrousness, but it was a bit much. But this is a fun release, definitely a lot of horror movie samples in there, and I'm pretty sure the name is a reference to some fucking child murderer, the Cropsy killer, Andre Rand. Fucking murdered a bunch of kids. Fun guy, currently rotting in a prison, hopefully forever. But yeah, this has a lot of fun tracks. I especially like Alien Killer. It's very thrashy, just kind of ridiculous track. There is a song on here called Better Than Ezra. And, well, it's better than Ezra, at least in my opinion. It's just a fucking fun grindcore, death grind track. I just don't like Better Than Ezra. That might be the main point there. And it has some fun bonus tracks for holiday stuff. We have Christmas Evil and New Year's Evil, and they're both fun grind songs. Pretty fun release. I mean, it doesn't necessarily stand out from a lot of, you know, other death grind acts, but I think it's at least fun and entertaining, and I dug it, and this was a cool find in the Metalhead box. So if you have never jammed this, strongly recommend checking it out if you love death grind, because that is exactly what it is. Check it out. Nattmaran, The Lurking Evil. This is the debut album from this international black and thrash act. Another one I got in the Metalhead box this month, and international is really interesting because this comes from a lot of different corners of the world. We have one member from Sweden, one member from Indonesia, and one member from Japan. Obviously, there was a fair amount of file sharing to get this one together, but black and thrash generally kind of warms my cold blackened heart whenever I hear, because it's one of my favorite fusions, and this is really fucking good. I kind of expected, as soon as I heard that opening riff on Beauty and Chaos, the opening track, it was like, all right, we're about to get fucking a good D beat down. And it's interesting that the drums kind of follow this interesting, like, off-time pattern. And it was kind of cool being thrown for a loop and them actually doing something different right out of the gate. But this is just a fun fucking release. The riff work on here is just nasty, and there's a lot of throwbacks to like classic heavy metal and more speed metal too. So there's definitely stuff that sounds more akin to bands like Hellripper in terms of the fast thrashy side, which there is plenty of that, dude. The song Pray for Redemption, or There's Nothing You Can See, oh, fucking nasty ripping songs. But you also get like classic heavy metal riffs all over here, kind of similar to Midnight too. And I have to say the vocals on here are just scathing. Again, kind of similar to fucking Hellripper, just in terms of that really just wild delivery, and they're kind of like distorted too, so extra just, I don't know, blackened. And they're like super distorted too, so it kind of just makes them sound more like inhuman. I gotta say, one of my favorite song titles though is Die You Will, which instantly I thought of like, is that like black metal Yoda threatening me? I don't know, it's kind of an adorable thought up until the point he fucking force lifts you and throws you into a burning church that he probably set on fire. But I just thought that was kind of funny, and it's actually followed by the next track, Die By My Bullets, so that's maybe how I die. Actually, it's not Yoda, they just shoot me. Either way, this is a fun album. This actually came out on Wise Blood Records, which I believe is based out of Indiana, and I know Metal Viking is a big fan of that label, so I definitely want to check out more on this label because this was really fucking good. So yeah, if you love black and thrash, much like I do, definitely check this out. This is a fun fucking album. And finally, we have Exumer, The Raging Tides. This is the fourth album from this German thrash metal act. Honestly, they kind of should be in the Teutonic 4. Like, I think Tankard's a good band, but I have always thought these guys were better. But they kind of were short-lived early on. They broke up after the first two albums, then reformed. And this is the second album after reforming. And honestly, the first one, Fire and Damnation, was really good. This was even better. Honestly, this album just whoops ass from start to finish. Great production. The riffs on here are fucking nasty. Like, they are hooky as hell. Lots of like Creator-like energy. I think the vocals could use just a little bit more bite to them, a little bit more snarl, but overall I think it's a pretty solid delivery, and the songwriting is what you focus on. These songs are fast and aggressive, but there's great groovy pockets, loads of cool solos on here. I especially love the machine gun riffing on Sacred Defense and the almost kind of death metal tremolo riffs that come in on Welcome to Hellfire. Absolutely awesome album. This is the only one I was missing from Exumer, and I'm super glad I got it because this is just a fucking fantastic thrash release, and hopefully they're working on a new one because I really love their last one too. So that was a while ago, so maybe they're due. But yeah, if you have never checked out Exumer, you're missing out on a Teutonic thrash treasure of a fucking band, and this would not be a bad place to start. I recommend the classic stuff too, but definitely check this one out. All right, that knocks out another collection update. This was 96, 4 more to go before I hit 100. Holy shit, I'm obsessed. We already knew that though. But yeah, by the time you see this, the whole Midwest and my whole city will probably be buried in fucking snow. So I will probably be hanging out here a lot in my house because the rest of the area will be a wintry fucking hellscape. So there's probably gonna be a fair amount of reviews that I'm just gonna do because what the fuck else am I gonna do? And well, honestly, the other guys won't be able to make it here because I think the road's gonna be pretty much shut down by Thursday. But they may actually do something from Miller's place, so I don't know. But yeah, it's gonna suck for a while. But I do have some stuff I want to work on, so for sure there is going to be a lot of content this weekend. So, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you would like to help us out there, click on the link down below. We also will have shirts available. Again, I'm not going to be able to pick them up because, again, the next few days are going to be snowy and shitty. But they are working on them. They should almost be done, hopefully, so I'm just kind of waiting on the call. And we will do a little debut video and show them off, and also do a giveaway at that because we're close to hitting 10,000 subs and we want to give away something fucking cool, as well as throwing a shirt in there too. So yeah, thank you guys. You fucking got us almost to 10,000 subscribers. That's fucking ridiculous, and thank you. I do this a lot in terms of the whole awkward thanking part at the end, but know that I mean it because this is fucking awesome. Thank you guys so much for showing a lot of interest in a bunch of knuckleheads that like to hang out in my basement, present knucklehead included. We definitely want to keep this thing rolling, and you guys are a huge fucking part of that. So with that, I thank you once again because this is the part where I do that, and we will catch you later.